Okay, all right. Looks like it's recording now. Let's just give 2 minutes. My time here says 11:01. So, let's just give 2 minutes. I don't know. I think 5 minutes is too much because I'm really trying to keep these sessions at 1 hour, but it doesn't look like that's gonna be possible every week. But we'll try. Let's just give others around 2 minutes, and see how much more people will be joining. Let's see here. Can everyone still hear me? Just making sure. Type 1 if you can hear me. No, type 2. I see one before. Type 2 if you can hear me. Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Share screen. What screen am I sharing? I'm sharing screen number 2.
If not, Magda, I have a suggestion for the Telegram group. If you could add a section for the comment, so we can discuss about the question.
All right. Can everyone see this screen where I have my Google Drive? Now I just switch to S3. Can y'all see that? Type. Let me see. Where's my Zoom? I need to split my chat. Where's my chat? Okay, there's my chat. Okay, yes. All right, you guys can hear me, see me, and all that good stuff. Okay, cool. All right. It's 11. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Let's just go ahead and get started. Who still has this in their S3 bucket? I want us to leave this in our bucket from now on. Okay, this is a sample. I'm gonna delete the others later, but at least let's have this one. Let's leave this one right here. Dynamic. I believe this is the one we used last week. Dynamic Web App MK. If you still have this, type the number 7. If you still have dynamic, the one we used last class. Oh, I deleted everything. Okay, all right, no worries, guys. Let's do this. Let's upload a new code. Okay, let's go ahead and upload a new code to our bucket. Okay, and we're gonna call this new site. Okay, we're gonna call this new site. New site, and we're gonna leave this in our bucket. Okay, until I tell you to. So for the coming weeks, just make sure you always leave it in the bucket. Okay, don't delete it. Just leave. All right, go ahead and click on. Just make sure so far, guys, that you have your desktop. Let me see here. Let me go back. Let me hide that file. You guys should all have this in your folder on your desktop. So let's go ahead and upload the code again. Okay, you should at least have this dynamic 2. I believe we called it dynamic 2. So just take this. We're gonna put it in the in a bucket. We're gonna create a new one and just leave it in there so we can use that from now on. Okay, I don't want us to every week have to do this again. Also, we might have to leave the AMI. No, I'll tell you about the AMIs later. With the if we create an AMI today and you end up deleting it, please, before any new session, make sure you take the process of creating that AMI again. Okay, because we might have to use that AMI over and over again. So don't delete your AMI after class, but before the next class, maybe before we start the class, create the AMI again. Okay, that way you get even better practice as you create them over and over again. I'm saying create them again because, of course, if you leave it and it's AMI uses your EBS, uses EBS, right? So those EBS, yes, you have a free tier every month, but of course you don't want to just not be frugal about how you use it. Okay, so every week that AMI, delete it after the class, before the next class, go through the process of building the AMI again. Okay, because I don't want to do that in the beginning of class. That's just going to be taking too much of the class. All right. So let's go ahead now and take this. Let's go ahead and take this code right here and put it in the S3 bucket. Let's do it. All right. So let's go ahead and click on create bucket. We're in S3. Everybody go to S3. Go to S3. Let me give you 1 minute to do that. Go to S3. If you're joining this class for the first time, it's okay. Still stay with us. We haven't gone far in this free Sunday sessions. The YouTube link, I'll share it with you at the end. Everybody that is new for the first time, don't worry. I'll share. Okay, you want the Google Drive? Let me see. I have the Google Drive here. Recordings. Where's my Google Drive? Here. For those that are just joining, the best thing would be to just, stay with this session for today, but then make sure you watch the previous sessions. Okay, I have it on YouTube. Okay, I have it on YouTube. Watch those, and you should be able to catch up fine with us. All right, so guys, let's go ahead. Let's go back to our S3 console. So I'm in S3. I'm gonna click on create bucket. I'm gonna call this new site MKMK. Remember, this is a bucket we're gonna leave that has the code that we're gonna be using as example from now on. Okay, this bucket, we're using it to store the code that our developers have given us to host the company's web application. Okay, so I'm gonna call it. Please don't call your bucket the same name. Remember, if you do that, I won't be able to use this bucket anymore. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me turn on my VPN. Okay, let me turn on my VPN before I go forward. I just want to make sure that turn on so that the IP that's visible, I can just discard it when I'm done. All right. Northern Virginia. Leave that as Northern Virginia. What else? Leave this as block public access. Bucket versioning, disable. No tags. Server-side encryption, enable. Server-side encryption, as we always do. It's gonna automatically have this SSH S3. That's what we want. We're not gonna enable this. Object lock, leave disabled. Go ahead and click on create bucket. All right, bucket is creating. What did I call it? Good, I was able to get it. New site MKMK. Don't worry about every other bucket in here. Okay, just worry about this new one that we are all creating right now. Okay, this is the one we're gonna use as our demo code from now on. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the new site MKMK so we can drop our content from this folder right here. Okay, remember in your file on your desktop, you all should have this code right here. We called it dynamic 2 at some point. So copy everything in dynamic 2, all of this code that makes up the web application. Control C that, Control C, just copy everything. If you're on Windows, I'm on Windows, so Mac, I don't know how you Control C, Control A and then Control C. Select all and then copy everything. Okay, so once you select all, you can just drag and put it in your bucket. Okay, so now it's copying everything. All right, just go ahead and click on upload. Okay, upload succeeded. All right, cool. I'm just gonna close this blue notifications up here. All right, I'm gonna click on exit now. Click on exit. Okay, all right, the files are now in my bucket. New site MKMK. Now guys, let's go and launch an instance. Okay, let us go and launch an instance. Okay, we'll need this instance later on for our auto scaling. Let's launch an instance. Just so we know that we already have an instance running. Go ahead and click on launch instances. Go ahead and click on launch instances. Make sure you have your demo codes open, guys. Make sure you have this open. Okay, the drive, have the Google Drive open, because remember what we did last week. We're gonna use a script, right? We're gonna use a script, a bootstrap script is what it's called, to make sure that we already have the website in the instance when it launches. And if you're familiar with Linux, you know what all this does. And this last step is very important, right? We're gonna of course change this. We're gonna change this to the name of the new bucket we just created, so it can copy those source code files from the new bucket into our HTML folder that that's going to be helping us with hosting that website. So Apache. We talked about all of this last few sessions. All right, so how about I do this first, because I can't edit here from looking at it from Google. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to open a new I'm gonna open a notepad that will allow me to, and just paste it there so I can edit. And then I just want to change this to the name of the new bucket we created. So I'm going to grab the name of the new bucket. That's it right there. Copy. Okay. And then I'm going to just change it here. Okay. I'm going to change it here. You guys see that? I just changed this to the name of my bucket. Okay. All right. So just leave that. We're going to need this code at some point. We're going to need this code at some point as we're launching our instance. Let's go back to EC2. Let me put the codes here for you guys. Okay. I just put the code in the chat, but it might no, just guys, you have to grab it from here. Just grab it from here. Okay, because I think if I paste it in the chat, it's not gonna come out properly. Let me paste it in the chat, but I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, it's the temp. It's unless you understand everything as it is on each line. Okay. Otherwise, just go to the Google Drive I shared with you guys and just copy from there. Make sure you edit this and put that as your new bucket name. All right, moving on, guys. Who's with me? Let me do a check. Who's with me? Type 9 if you're still with me. Type 9. Type 9. Let's see. Let's see. Awesome. 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 Let's move on. All right, cool. Now we're in EC2. Okay, you guys are in EC2. You guys know how to get here. Let me just go back to AWS. All right, you guys can see my computer is fast today, right? I have 32 gig of RAM. Yay. All right. What am I looking for? EC2. If you don't know how to get to EC2, type AWS here. Type EC2 in there, and then we're just gonna click on EC2. Take us to the EC2 service. Okay. Click on instances, and then on the top right here, we click on launch instance. All right. So select the first one, Amazon Linux 2. That's what we want. Go ahead and click on select. Okay. We're gonna use the free tier that AWS provides for us. Free tier eligible. The second one. Okay. It's already checked. Leave that check. Go ahead and click on configure instance details. Okay. Exactly, that's what we want. I already click on instance details. Now we want only one instance. We're going to use the default VPC. Let's choose 1A, just so we know the AZ we're working in. Choose 1A, okay? Now what else do we want to add? IAM role. Everybody should have a role that we created last class. So I called my new web server role, okay? Go ahead and click on new web server role. Okay, you know what? Let's create a new role. Okay, let's create a new role that we're going to start using from now on. Okay, click on this create new IAM role. Don't use this new web server role. Let's all create a new role and let's add the necessary permissions to that role that will allow us copy something from S3, but also use SSM, use session manager. Okay, let's do that again. So click on here. As you can see here, it says create new IAM role. I think it's going to open a new tab. Let's do that. Yes, it does open a new tab. It does open a new tab. So go ahead and click on create role. Go ahead and click on create role. Okay. Select EC2. Select EC2. That's what we want to create the role for. It's called an instance profile. Okay. So sometimes you hear instance profile. So this is all about you creating roles for your EC2s. Okay. So let me go ahead now and click on next permissions. Okay. Next permissions. We want to add S3 full. So type S3. Type full. Okay, check that. Check that. Now go ahead and delete what you have in that search box. Make sure you have that Amazon S3 full access checked. Okay, and now search for SSM. Search for SSM, and I want you to go down and check the Amazon SSM managed instance core. Okay, Amazon SSM managed instance core. Check that. We want that as well. Awesome. Now click on next tags. Let's go ahead and click on next tags. Very good. We're not going to add a tag here. Go ahead and click on next review. Let's give this a name. Let's call this new. Let's call this S3 and SSM. Okay, see what I'm doing? So that way, when I look at this role, I can tell what permissions the EC2 is going to have. Whatever machine that inherits this role, whatever machine we give this role. And when I say machine, remember I said that means EC2 instances, right? So whatever EC2 instance I give this role is going to have be able to use SSM and be able to use S3. Okay, it can copy from S3. It can do whatever it needs to do with S3. Okay, so just put those in there. We're giving it these two policies, okay, to have those permissions that we need. Go ahead and click on create role, guys. Go ahead and click on create role. Okay, awesome. Now we have S3 and SSM. So if we slap this role to an instance, what is it going to have? The instance is going to, if you remote into that instance, you will have the permission to copy anything from S3, to delete from S3, to do things from S3, but you also have what? You also be able to do what? To SSH using Session Manager. You'll be able to SSH using Session Manager. If all of this sounds foreign to you, don't worry. Once you watch the previous sessions, all of this will make sense. Those that have been following from week 1, or those that have watched the previous sessions and now joined today's session, I'm pretty sure all of this makes sense to you guys. Okay, so now let's close that tab. That was a new tab. We're gonna close that tab. Now we're back to the tab where we were launching the instance. Okay, so now let's click on this refresh icon right here. I'm gonna click on that refresh icon right there. Okay, click on that refresh icon right there, and then now scroll down and then find your new SSM S3 and SSM role. Now check that. Okay, that's what we want. Check that. Who's following so far? Type the number 1 if you're following so far. Type the number 1. Ah, very good. I love to see that. Okay, all right, moving on. S3 and SSM. What else? Shutdown behavior. Remember, we said we want to terminate. If we do shutdown, let it terminate the instance. We don't want to just stop. Okay, so let's moving on. What else? Let's paste the code now, guys. Let's paste the code now. Okay, please make sure you've changed the name of your bucket to the new one with the new code. Okay, it's still the same code from last week, I believe. But just make sure you change that right there. All right, so Control C that. I'm copying everything. I want to paste that into here. That allows me to run a script on that machine that installs and do some like really cool stuff on that machine before it presents it to me, right? Before it's fully available the way I want it, right? I want HTTPD, I want Apache to already be installed. I want it to already copy the code into the Apache folder, the HTML folder that Apache provides for us. And then we'll wait, give it a few seconds. Once it shows that it's running, once it shows us in the EC2 console that status check is 2 out of 2, and then we're good. All right, moving on, guys. We've pasted that code there. Good job. What else? We've pasted the code. That's all. Click on next, add storage. Leave this as 8 gig. Click on next, add tags. Okay, let's add a tag and let's call this, give it a name and give it web server. Okay, give it a name, web server. All right, go ahead and click on configure security group. Okay, I believe we all should still have our web server security group from last time. Okay, you should have a web server security group. You should have a load balancer security group. Okay, and then this one is the default security group that always comes with the servers. Okay, so let's go ahead and check web server security group. Okay, go ahead and check web server security group. All right, and then go ahead and click on review and launch. Okay, go ahead. Don't worry if yours here says ELB-SG1. If you were here last class, you remember that I put one because I already had one before, and then it won't let me create the same one with the same name. So if yours says ELB-SG, that's fine. We're not actually using that now. That's a security group for our load balancer. Okay, remember that. Now for our web servers, all of our web servers, we're gonna use a web server security group. So if you have that web server security group, tap the number 2. If you have the web server security group, tap the number 2. Okay. All right, awesome. All right, next, review and launch. So this is what it's allowing. It's allowing, okay, don't worry about this, guys. I'm actually going to talk about this later, okay? Yours might say 0.0.0.0, okay? If you check this web server security group, your HTTP and HTTPS is allowing traffic not from 0.0.0 like we had it before. Yours might show 0.0.0.0. Don't worry about it. I'll show you how to change that later on, okay? But this one is showing, this one will show your IP, because remember when we set up the security group for SSH, we said allow only our own IP. Okay, allow for security reasons, allow only our own IP. But don't worry if yours is not showing ELB-SG here or ELB-SG here. If yours is showing 0.0.0.0, that's fine. We'll talk about that later. Okay, go ahead and click on review and launch. Okay, go ahead and click on review and launch. Now click on launch. Okay, I'm praying, I'm hoping you guys still have in your training folder that you guys still have the key from last time. Please confirm that you have the key from last time. I have my own from last time, web server key 1. Okay, web server key 1. So these are some of the things we should not delete every week. Okay, our keys and our security groups. Okay, so here I have web server key 1 is still there for me. Okay, I hope you guys still have a key in there, okay, that you can still use. So we're gonna leave this as choose an existing key pair. Okay, choose an existing key pair, and then we're gonna say choose that one that we know that we have. We know that we still have this web server key 1, so that's what we're gonna choose. That's the key pair we're gonna select. Okay, go ahead and click on I acknowledge, and then go ahead and click on launch instances. Okay, now we can click on this ID right here to take us to the EC2 console and show us the EC2 instance that is currently launching. Okay, so it says pending, pending, pending. All right, type the number 5 if you're with me so far. Type the number 5 if you're with me so far. Ah, good, 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 good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. Very good, very good, very good. All right, it says running, but I usually like to wait for this to show 2 out of 2 checks. This status checks just tells us that, you know, everything is working fine. You know, the actual machine at AWS is good, and also whatever host our instance is running on also is good. Let's give it a few seconds. Still initializing, but I can still test and see, because sometimes, like I said last time, it still works. Okay, go ahead and copy the URL to your machine. Go ahead and copy that. Okay, now test it in a browser. Test it in a browser. Let's see, is it there yet? I don't think so. Okay. Guessing it's still because of the status checks. Oh, it's still initializing. Status check is still initializing. Let me just make sure everything else is good with my security group. Let me go ahead and check my security group. Go ahead and click on security group, guys. Click on security group on the left. I just want to make sure here, if I'm giving it my web server, who's able to access it? Oh, only if you're able. Oh, okay. All right, let me change now, guys. Your web server security group, I'm gonna change mine to what you guys should have. Okay, I was doing this as a test last night, so I'm gonna change this. Don't do this that I'm doing, okay? Because you guys should have here 0.0.0, okay? But I have something different, okay? So I'm gonna change this now for my web server security group to what you guys have, okay? So I'm gonna edit inbound rules, and I'm gonna change this, remove this SG, and make this as anywhere, and make this as anywhere. Okay, SSH I'm gonna leave as my IP. Okay, I'm gonna save the rule. Okay, so you guys should have something like this. Yours must be something like this. Okay, so now let me refresh. Okay, now the website is coming up. I think it's so okay, good. Someone already has it working. Al Mamoon, very good. All right, so this is the website that we just have now. What number should we choose? Number 1. Let's get some ones in there. If you got, okay, very good, very good. All right, nice to see that. All right, guys, we're gonna create a load balancer. We talked about load balancer last class. Okay, we talked about load balancer last class. So let's go ahead now and create a load balancer. Okay, we can. I don't think we need this S3 tab anymore. I can close that S3 tab. Go back to AWS. Click on the AWS icon on the top left. Go back to EC2. Click on EC2. Let's go back to our EC2 console. Now on the bottom left right here, guys, you're gonna see load balancers. Okay, click on load balancer. Click on load balancer. Click on load balancer. Click on load balancer. Okay, let's create a load balancer. Okay, click on create load balancer. Click on create on the application load balancer. Create. Okay, let's call this our load balancer. Let's call it load balancer. And then it's internet facing, yes. And then what else? You know what? Instead of load balancer, let's call it ELB. Elastic, just the way it is on AWS, right? Elastic load balancer. Change that to ELB. Call it ELB. So when we see that, we know we're talking about our load balancer. Okay. ELB, leave everything else as default. Leave everything else as default. I want you guys to choose all of this. Choose all of this right here. Okay, choose all of this. Make sure you're in Northern Virginia. We mentioned the first day of class. We always want to work in our Northern Virginia region. Okay. All right. Check all of that and then click on next. Click on next. Configure security group. Configure security settings. Now you see this warning right here. Don't worry about this one right here. Just go ahead and click on configure security groups. Okay. Now we want to choose our what? Uncheck this first one. We're not using the default. We're going to choose what? The load balancer security group. Okay. That's what we want to use. All right, your ELB-SG is what you're going to use, okay? Just leave that checked. That's what we want to use. Go ahead and click on configure routing, okay? Go ahead and click on configure routing. All right, target group. We talked about target group last class as well. Target group is what has the instances, the machines, right? That the load balancer is going to what? Route traffic to. All right, so let's call this our, just call it target group, okay? Let's call it web server. Web server target group. See what I did? Web server TG. Okay, it says web server TG. All right. Now go ahead and what else do we have to change here? Nothing. Target type is instance. Leave this as instance. Okay. Remember in the first step, make sure you're using internet facing. Internet facing. Okay. In the previous step, I don't know if that's what Astu is asking. So internet facing load balancer is what we created. As to we can look at that later on. Yeah, we're just on time now. I hope that okay, cool. All right, web server TG, web server TG. What else? Health checks. Remember we talked about this last class. This is how the load balancer is going to be testing, right? It's going to be testing if the website is working or not. Moving on, change this 5 to 2. Okay, we talked about all of this last class. I'll change that to 2. Now go ahead and click on register targets. Go ahead and click on register targets. Okay. Yes, we have a server on here, but we're not going to do this. Okay. We're not going to add this server to the register target. Okay. This load balancer is just asking, where am I routing your traffic to? If people are coming to your website through me, the load balancer. Okay. If your customers are trying to go to view your website through me, the load balancer, what servers is serving your web server? So it's telling us here, give me the servers that are serving your web server so I can route people to those servers. Okay, of course through me. Now we're not going to give you this server that we have running, okay, because we want to create auto scaling group and we're going to whiteboard in a second. Okay, we're going to whiteboard in a second. So don't choose this and add to it. No, just leave that unchecked. We're not going to add. Go ahead and click on next review and then go ahead and click on create. Okay, it says it's successfully created. Now we can close that. Now we can close that. Who's with me so far? Type 2 if you're with me so far. Type 2 if you're with me so far. You just created your load balancer as well. Ah, very good. All right, moving on. Cool. All right, now guys, here's what's cloud computing, web servers and all that. Now, what I always keep in mind, you know, in relation to everything that, you know, cloud brings. Cloud brings a lot of things, right? But one of the biggest advantages hosting your web applications, right? You have a web application that maybe it's, you know, or mobile application, you know, and you get a lot of traffic, right? And you used to do that on premises, but now you go into the cloud. This is one of the main uses of the cloud today, right? You're hosting your web applications, your websites, you know, on the cloud, right? Now, with that said, this is one thing I want you guys to be able to comfortably do at any point in time, right? And when you think about hosting a web application or a website, there are a couple of things that comes to mind as to how you build that. Now, we're going to use this now these are going to be your end customers, right? Let's say you're building an application that's going to go viral. You know, people are waiting for your application to launch. You know, so these are your customers from the whole world. Think about this as the internet, right? That are going to, you know, look at your website and, you know, work with your website and buy things on your website if it's an e-commerce website. Okay, so now the first thing for us here is load balancer. Okay, our ELB, guys. Our ELB is how our customers are going to get to our web servers. Okay, now remember we are in a region. please try to follow this diagram, guys. And this might help you in your interviews as well, right? I mean, after this, in fact, take a picture of this, right? And try to go back and study this again, okay? Remember, we're working in a region. We're working in Northern Virginia region. And remember, there is a default VPC that we've been using so far. We're going to do a VPC lab in the coming weeks, right? There's a default VPC that we'll be using so far, okay? So think of this as this same big box right here as the VPC that we're working in, right? A VPC is a networking construct, okay? Computers within your company, they need to be in a network, right? So VPC is how you construct that network, right? To say, okay, these computers are going to have internet access, or these computers are not going to have internet access, okay? So in this region, guys, in this region, we have our load balancer. We know that we're working inside of a VPC, right? Now, what I want you guys to now think of is, with this load balancer now, we remember we said as a best practice, always leverage how many availability zones? Who can tell me in the chat real quick? How many availability zones within the region should you always leverage, especially for production websites? Very good. 2 at least, right? So let's say your load balancer is going to try to get to one of your machines, right? Your load balancer is going to try to get to one of your machines. Let's say this is your AZ1A and this is your AZ1B. Okay? This is your AZ1A and this is your AZ1B. Now within your AZs, you have what we call subnets. Okay? And this could be, let's call this our public subnet. And then we have another subnet here, guys. We're going to call this our private subnet. Okay, and the same thing here in this other AZ. We have a public subnet. Public subnet, don't mind my writing, okay? And then we have a private subnet. Guys, we have a private subnet. Okay? Of course, we're not talking about VPCs here, but I think it's good that we talk about this now. When I say public subnet, it means that what? Any machine in this subnet right here is going to have internet access. Okay, internet access. Any machine in this public subnet is going to have internet access. Okay, and machines here, as you guys might have thought about, no internet access. Okay, no internet access, no internet access. Okay, now, guys, in this public subnet right here, what we've been doing so far is we launch an instance. Okay, remember our instances have what we call EBS volumes, right? We launch it. Let's just use one AZ for now. Okay, our instances have let's use 2. Okay, but of course, so far we've been using just 1. But just because of the lab that we're doing today, auto scaling, we're gonna assume 2. Okay, we're gonna actually do 2. Okay, and in this other availability zone, AZ1B, we also have another instance running. Right? We have an EC2 instance. Remember, this is our EC2 instance I'm drawing in here, guys. Okay? This is an EC2 instance I'm drawing in here. Okay? So now, guys, remember that at the end of the day, you always want to have a load balancer in front of your servers. You never want to give your end users, you never want to direct your customers to the DNS, right, that you provided for your instances, unless you're doing some type of testing. Not to confuse you guys too much, we have a load balancer. We have an EC2 instance running in a public subnet in our availability zone 1A. Okay, now guys, that we've created the first instance. Now let me come to the bottom of this page right here. We've just created an instance. If you guys remember, we created an instance. Okay, let me use some, I'm gonna use the bottom left here. We just created an instance, right? We just created an instance in EC2. Now this has our working website. This has our working website. And now we want to what? Take an AMI. Take an image that we're going to use to automatically start deploying machines into these availability zones in case any of these machines goes down, right? You don't want to manually start attaching instances to your load balancer. Guys, what we've done so far in the past, especially last class, I believe, last class, right? We manually attached an instance to the load balancer. right? We manually, and remember when we created the load balancer again just now, I said, let's not register this machine to the load balancer. Why? Because we want to do something new today. We want to add an auto scaling group, guys. We're just going to use ASG for auto scaling group. Instead of manually creating instances and adding the instances to the load balancer, we're going to start doing that. We're going to automate that. And this is what you want to do in real life, in real production environments, where you don't want to what? Go to your console and see that what? Something happened to your, your instance. It's done, it's gone. It's no longer working. Now you have to manually, go to your AMI and create the instance again. We don't want to do that again. Now with auto-scaling group has something called a launch configuration. I'm just going to put LG in here, right? With the launch configuration, you give the launch configuration the AMI, right? Now with this AMI, your auto-scaling group knows how to what? Make new instances available for your load balancer. Think about this, guys. This is the biggest part of this. Your ELB and your auto-scaling group are going to be working hand in hand. Your auto-scaling group knows what to use, what AMI to use. Now we have already put our application code into this machine. We're going to take an AMI of this and we're going to give that AMI to our auto-scaling group so that our auto-scaling group will automatically use that AMI to launch a new instance in these availability zones in case any of them goes down. Now, another thing you need to know about auto-scaling group. So let's just draw an arrow here to show that auto-scaling group is the one supplying those machines and we're not manually doing it anymore. Okay? So one thing you also need to know with auto-scaling group, your company is going to decide, right? Now, in case there's a lot of traffic on our servers, right? Let's say the average traffic, like let's say there's 1 million people coming to your website. That means what? Your load balancer is sending people to this machine and this machine, right? It's balancing it out. Sending, if there's 100 people, it's sending 50 people here, and it is sending 50 people here, right? Now, your company says, okay, at least if there's any auto-scaling activity happening, right? If auto-scaling is going to add more machines to our, to either of our availability zones, we don't want to go more than 5 instances at any given point in time. Okay, so in auto-scaling group, you can tell auto-scaling group to say what? I want to have a minimum of 1 instance at all times, a desired of 2 instances at all times. So this is what's really going to count, guys, right? You want to have a desired, right? At every point in time, you always want to have 2 instances running. And if it's going to auto scale, maybe because there's more traffic, there's more people trying to go to your website, there won't be too much load on your servers now because you are creating an auto scaling group to add more servers. So in that case, in auto scaling group, you can now say that what? I want to be able to go to a maximum of what? 5 instances. So you have a minimum, you have a desired state that you always want. So 2 instances at all times if everything is working under normal conditions. And then if autoscaling is going to add automatically instances to your to your fleet, then let it not go more than 5. Okay? To keep your average utilization at what? At what you define. And that could be what? Let's say 70%. What you're saying here is, and you guys will see this in the console soon. You're saying that what? You want to automatically make sure that your servers are running at 70%, right? If there's any reason for your servers to go over 70%, maybe because your traffic has increased, then let autoscaling group add an instance. Now, what if your traffic goes below 70%? Then what? Save money by telling autoscaling group to what? To reduce the number of instances you have back to your desired state, which is what? 2 at all times. Now, I know that is a lot, and I'm hoping that you guys will watch this video again and listen to this explanation again and again. I did not understand this in one day, okay? This took repetition, like I always tell you guys. It took repetition and it took time for me to be able to comprehend and to understand how these things work. If you already got the gist of it, great. If it's still a little, you still need to review, don't worry, you have the video at the end to go back to. Now let's go back and build all of this out, right? Now the concept is very important. Which is the reason why I just did this whiteboarding for you guys. We've already created our load balancer. Let's go ahead now, go back to EC2. Let's go back to instances. We need to create our AMI first to give AutoScaling group to use. All right, so go ahead and check this. Check this web server. Click on actions. Click on actions. Okay, click on actions and then click on images, image and templates, and click on create image. We're creating an image from this web server. Go ahead and click on create image. Now let's give this image a name. Let's call it web server image. Let's call it web server image. All right, I'm just gonna copy the same thing. Uh-oh, what did I just do? I'm just gonna copy the same thing and leave that as a description as well. I have never been able to access your video from day one. It's on YouTube. I'll share the link later. Okay, Sahid, I don't know if you're joining for the first time. I'll always share all those links at the end of the class. Okay, but don't worry, still follow along for now. All right, so web server image, and then what else? Don't check anything else. Just go ahead and click on create image. Okay, just give it a name, give it a description, and go ahead and click on so now if you click on AMIs on the left here, if you click on AMIs on the left here, you see it's creating your web server image. I usually just like to add something here. If I added a tag of name and I put a key there, it'll appear here, but we didn't add a tag. So just to make things more easier for us to see when we see this AMI, just edit this, click on this pencil icon right here, and add web server image as well. Although I can already see from this AMI name here that it's my web server image. Just go ahead and add it here as well. Okay. All right, cool. If you can't see everything, usually you can always expand by clicking this arrow right here. You can always expand to see the full. All right, guys. Now let us go ahead and create auto-scaling group. Okay. Don't forget the launch configuration part of it. Okay. And we're gonna see that. Let me go ahead now, guys. On the bottom left here, you're gonna see launch configurations and auto-scaling group. I usually like to click on auto-scaling group first. Okay, so go ahead and click on auto-scaling group, guys. Go ahead and click on auto-scaling group. Type 5 if you're following me so far. Type 5 if you're following me so far. Type 5. Let's go. Very good. All right. Go ahead and click on create auto-scaling group. Okay, go ahead and call this web server. Let's call it our web server ASG. Okay, now there are two types of should I say auto-scaling group or launch configurations, right? There's launch templates and let me not say two types of launch configurations. There's launch templates and there's launch configurations. Okay, launch template is newer. Okay, we're not going to use that now. Okay, I can do a lab about that maybe in some time from now. Okay, but for now on, the most common one that I've still seen is launch configuration. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on switch to launch configuration, guys. Go ahead and click on switch to launch configuration. Okay, so click on that. Very good. Now this is now on launch configuration. Okay, so I created a launch configuration yesterday. Don't worry, we're gonna create a new one. Click on create launch configuration here, guys. Click on create launch configuration. It's gonna open a new tab for you to create a new launch configuration. Okay, let's call this web server. I'm gonna add one. As you guys can see, I already have one before, so I'm just gonna add one. You don't have to add one. Okay, let's call this web server LG. You guys leave yours as this. I'm gonna add one because I already have something like this before. Okay, so I'm gonna add one to mine. Don't add one to yours. Okay, because you probably don't have this launch configuration before. All right, now it's telling us to choose an AMI. Remember in the whiteboarding I said your launch configuration is gonna have the AMI that auto-scaling is gonna use to launch your new servers if it needs to, right? If auto-scaling needs to add a new server because your average CPU utilization of your servers is going to be above 70%, right? This is the AMI it's going to use. Okay, all right, now let's see if our AMI is created now. I think it has been created. So if I go back to my EC2 console on the other tab, actually never mind, let's go back to this tab, go back to the new tab we're in. I just wanted to see if my AMI is finished creating, but I think it has because now it's populating it right here. Type the number 3 if you guys can see your web server image popping up there. Type the number 3. Should make sure. Okay, very good, very good. All right, so check that web server image. Check that. That's what we want. Now, instance type. Click on choose instance type. We're gonna choose T2 Micro, which is a free tier. Go ahead and choose T2 Micro. T2.micro. I'm just typing T2.micro, mic, so it brings up T2 Micro. Go ahead and check that. Okay, go ahead and choose that. Okay, that's the one we want because those are free instances. Remember, T2 Micros are free, right? Of course, in production environment, you're going to be using things like M5 or C or P, depending on the type of. But remember, I said for regular average web applications, M5A or M5 instances are good for real world production environments. Okay, but of course, you can always use other types of instances based on your use case. All right, guys. So T2 Micro, we have that. We're not using Spot instances. We're not gonna check anything else here, guys. We're gonna leave this as 8 gig. Yes, always give all of the machines 8 gig disk space, hard drive volume, whatever you call it. And then select an existing security group. For these servers, remember they're still our web servers, but AutoScaling is gonna help us create them from now on, right? Select an existing security group and choose your web server security group. Okay, choose your web server security group. All right, cool. Now, what you want to do now is it's telling us here that rules with source. Yes, we're gonna make this more secure later on. Okay, don't worry, we're gonna get there. All right. So leave that as that web server security group. That's the only security group we're choosing for this machines, for these web servers that are created, for this web server that are created by our AutoScaling group. We also, of course, they should obviously be using our web server security group. Okay, so leave that checked. Existing key pair, yes, I'm gonna choose an existing key pair in case in the future I need to log into any of these AutoScaling machines, right? I can do that because I'm giving it a key here that will allow me to be able to SSH into it. Okay, so go ahead and choose your web server. In real life, people don't do this, right? Because these machines that are created by your AutoScaling group, in most cases, there's no reason to log into them. Okay, they're machines that are automatically created unless you have some use cases. Maybe you're trying to download some logs from some of those instances before they are terminated. That's maybe the reason why you might want to have that option to be able to remote into them. Or otherwise, you can always use Session Manager as well. Okay, remember you can always use Session Manager to remote into them. But let's just, just to add everything to it, let's give it a key. Okay, that we can use to SSH later on if we need to. So I'm going to choose my web server key. Choose a key that you have available, like we said earlier. Go ahead and click on I acknowledge, and then go ahead and click on create launch configuration, guys. Okay. All right. So I'm going to delete this. This is from my testing. Okay. All right. So now we should all have this launch configuration, right? It's created. Now let's go back. Let's go back to the previous tab. Remember, we clicked on this and it took us to that new tab where we created the new launch configuration. I hope you guys are back here. Choose launch template or configuration. All right, now refresh. Click on refresh icon right there. Click on refresh icon right there. And now you should be able to see your new launch configuration that you created. Check that, and then click on next. Okay, VPC's default subnets. We're gonna choose two. We're gonna choose two subnets. One in AZ1A and one in AZ1B. As you guys can see, this is a default VPC, but by default it already has subnets in all of the availability zones, and all these are public subnets. Right, your default VPC comes with what? A public subnet in all of the availability zones. Okay, so now we want to leverage two. For high availability, we want to leverage two. So let's choose 1A, and also let's choose 1B. Once you select those two, click outside the box. So what this means now is AutoScaling group is going to be able to launch instances in what? AZ1A and AZ1B. It's going to be able to launch it to this subnet that ends in 696 in 1A, and also launch it in another subnet in availability zone 1B. Guys, remember, AZs are geographically apart from each other, right? AWS provides them for high availability so that if one AZ goes down, or if power problems or networking problems happen in one AZ, it doesn't affect the other AZ. Okay, so think about your company having 2 data centers, right, for high availability, right? This is something amazing that you can do for such a very simple cost, right? You don't need that upfront capital expense to, I don't know how much, $100,000 to $20,000 or millions of dollars to build data centers to do this. We are easily doing that using the power of the cloud. Okay, so 2 AZs, leave those checked. Go ahead and click on next here, guys. Go ahead and click on next. Okay, load balancer. AutoScaling group is telling us now, do you have a load balancer that's going to be using this machine that AutoScaling group I'm creating? Okay, and we have created a load balancer, guys. We have created a load balancer. Now, right here from the AutoScaling console, we can make that connection, guys. Let's go back to our whiteboard. We can make that connection so that AutoScaling group and load balancer are working hand in hand. Your customers are going to go to your website through the load balancer. The load balancer has machines available, right, at all times. Why? Because AutoScaling group is creating those machines for you. And even if one machine goes down, AutoScaling group will what? Will make sure to add what? A new machine, right? Things are automatically happening here. You want to automate as much as you can in real world environments. All right, so let me go back to that tab where we're creating this. Let's go ahead and click on attach to an existing load balancer. Okay, go ahead and choose from your load balancer target groups. All right, if you drop down this box right here, we should have this web server target group. Remember, when we're creating the load balancer, we had to create a target group which has the what? Let's just say this has the machines, right? The load balancer is gonna be using. Okay, so go ahead and select this web server target group. All right, web server target group. Health check, leave everything unchecked. We're not gonna. It's automatically gonna be using. AutoScaling group will know to add a new instance. Let's say one server goes down. It will already know because it's always doing a health check on your EC2 instances that are available. It's always doing a health check to see if they're alive or not. If it's not alive, it will automatically create a new instance for you, right? So that you always have what? 2 instances running at all times. Okay, so we're gonna leave that. As you can see, we can't even change that. But if you also want to use your load balancer, because load balancer also have a health check. If you want to use the health check coming from the load balancer as well, you can do that. We're not going to do that here. The EC2 check that is provided is fine for us, okay? As long as AutoScaling can check and see that what instances are alive or not and create new instances, if needed, that's all we want for now, okay? 300 seconds, the amount of time EC2 AutoScaling performed the first health check, right? This 300 seconds is enough for us because remember, once our instance launches, it needs to copy the code from S3 and all that is happening within that machine image, right? All of that is already has already happened, if we may say, because now we have a working image that we're using. Okay, so 300 seconds is for the machine to what? Warm up, right? And make sure that the server is available before AutoScaling group will start testing it. Are you working? Are you alive or not? So this 300 seconds is very important, guys. It's very important for the AutoScaling group to wait before it tests. Because if your machine is just booting up, maybe there's still other processes that's making the website not available yet in Apache. So you want to give it that 300 seconds to make sure that it's fully available before AutoScaling group starts to check it if it's what? Alive and can respond to traffic or not. All right. So moving on, guys, don't uncheck that last monitoring thing. Go ahead and click on next here. Okay. Desired. Remember, we said we want 2 desired. We want 1 minimum. Okay. You can say 2 minimum. And then the maximum, let's just use 3. Okay, some companies will do 20, right? In case tomorrow maybe our website goes viral, right? We don't want to bombard our 2 minimum instances. That means the CPU will go over 70%, right? In this case, we want to go to a maximum of 3 because we're testing here. We don't want to say 20 servers or 1,000 servers. Some companies can go crazy like that. But there's a minimum of instances you can always create in every account. I believe it's 20. You can create a maximum of 20 servers. You can open a ticket with AWS to say, we want to be able to launch more than 20 servers, okay? You have to open a support ticket for that. All right, but in this case, 2 desired at all times, 1 minimum, and then maximum 3. If there's any reason for our website to, like, explode, right? Maybe there's more traffic. If you're adding more instances, don't add more than 1. Okay, that's just how we are. We don't want to, that means, of course, some traffic might be dropped if everything like really goes beyond, and your current, servers, let's say you're at a maximum of 3 and there's even more people coming to your website. If that happens, then guys, of course, some traffic will be dropped, right? Because you're going to have only 3 machines, and also potential for crash, right? For those servers, if they go beyond, 100% CPU utilization. So just think about that. So go ahead and choose target tracking policy. Go ahead and choose target tracking policy. Some of you might be wondering, things have changed in the console, right? And that's good that you're learning that now. Things have changed. As you can see, it doesn't look like the way you created before. Before, it was easy for you to say, if my CPU utilization is below 30%, remove an instance. You're able to also say, if my CPU utilization is over 70%, add an instance, right? To absorb, to be able to what? Manage that traffic, as our traffic is increasing. But you can see here, things have been simplified. And to be honest, I like it better this way. Because this way now, guys, I only have one thing to worry about. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell AutoScaling, I want, on average, all of my machines should be running at 70% CPU. Okay, and this is just me. And in your companies, they might say, no, we want to do 30%, we want to do 40%. Okay, what are you saying by doing this? What you're saying by doing this is you're saying what? Please, AutoScaling, make sure that the average CPU, if I have 2 instances running at all times, I want them to be at an average of 70% utilization. Right? And I'm going to change that here. I think they're recommending 50, but here, just for learning purposes, I'm going to do 70. Okay, I'm going to do 70 here. Okay, I'm going to do 70. So AutoScaling will look at this metric, this 70%, and okay, my 2 machines, right, in 2 availability zones. And forgive me, guys, we're going to go over an hour today. Okay, but again, this is good stuff for you guys. Okay, yeah, so forgive me. All right, so we have 2 servers, right? We have 2 servers. Do you forgive me, guys? Type 5 you forgive me for taking more time. Type 5 you forgive. Sorry, I'm thinking. Let me just make sure you guys are still with me. Okay, good. So I have your permission to move on. All right, so 2 servers, guys. This is interesting. You're telling AutoScaling group now that at every time 2 servers, and they should be operating at least 70%. Now, what if the servers are now operating at 80%? Now, AutoScaling group will do something. What will it do, guys? It'll add an instance to your maximum capacity of what? 3. Okay, actually, let's do 5. Let's change that to 5 just to be more realistic. We can do 5, so let's do 5. So if it notices that what? Your average CPU of your 2 servers in 2 availability zones are going more than 70% that you said, is going to add an instance to absorb and bring you back to what? 70% for all your servers, which is what you want. Now, what if it goes below 70%? Right? Let's say you're getting to like, 50 or 30 or something. At least at that point as well, it's going to still keep you at what? 2 desired instances at all times, right? So the way we used to do this before, and you can still do that actually, is you can say if it's below 30%, remove 1 instance. If it's above 70%, add 1 instance. But I really like this better. I'm just giving it 1 metric, right? Just make sure that my servers are operating at 70% utilization at all times. Okay, if there's anything above that or below that, please remove an instance or add an instance based on what's happening. Remember, if it's higher CPU utilization, it's going to add more to bring you back to 70 that you're specifying here. If it's way below that, of course, you're going to also stay at what? The average that you want at all times, and keep your 2 desired machines at all times. You're only adding if it goes beyond. All right, enough of that. I hope that makes some sense, guys. If it doesn't, remember you have the video to go back to. Go ahead and check here. Disable scale. No, don't check that. Do not check that. With this now, we're saying what? Auto scaling, let's say the CPU utilization went above 80%. It went above 80%, right? And now we're working at what? We now have 4 instances instead of 2 desired that we want at all times, right? Instead of, let's say there's more people coming to our website, so there was an auto-scaling activity, more instances were added. Now we're at 4 instances, right? Now 4 instances, 2 on each availability zones running. Now, what if your average CPU utilization comes back to 70, right? What if it comes back to 70? Then what? Let it take out 2 instances and leave you at your desired state of 2 instances running at all times at 70%. Okay, so we don't want to check that. So we want to actually allow, and think about that. That allows us to save money. It allows us to save money. We don't want 4 running at all times. Only do that when there's need to, when there's more traffic to our website. If there's no need and we're back at 70, please take back 2 instances and leave us at our 2 desired that can still handle the normal traffic that we're expecting. Okay, I hope that makes sense, guys. Moving on, go ahead and click on next. Go ahead and click on next. So we're not going to disable scaling. We actually want scaling back to our desired. So go ahead and don't check this one as well. Okay, don't check this one as well. This will not allow this scaling activity to happen. We don't want to do that. Just leave both unchecked. Go ahead and click on next. Okay, let's add a notification. If auto-scaling adds an instance, launches an instance for you, you want to be notified as a solutions architect, as a system admin. That means you're able to know now that what? There was an auto-scaling activity that happened, right? So it added an instance. So you should be able to know that, right? So it's telling you now that create a topic. So go ahead and click on create topic. Let's say ASG activity. Okay, I'm just going to say ASG activity. All right. And then if auto-scaling terminates an instance, I'll get an email. If it fails to launch an instance, I'll get an email. If it fails to terminate an instance, I'll get an email. All right, so I'm just going to give it an email here. Don't use my email. Use your email. Okay, you want to use your email in this case. All right, so I'm going to say send a notification. Yes, as a solutions architect that built this, I want to know if auto-scaling is doing what it needs to, right? If my average CPU utilization goes above 70% and it added an instance, I want to know that now I'm going to be paying for 3 servers or for 4 servers or for 5 servers, okay? And if it's gone down as well, if it terminated some instances, I want to know as well, okay? All right, so go ahead and click on next, guys. Go ahead and click on next. All right, go ahead and click on next. Go ahead and click on next, review. Let's go ahead and add tags here, because in the EC2 console, if auto-scaling launches an instance for you, how do you want to easily recognize which instances were created by auto-scaling group? So this is what I do, okay? I add a tag here and I say name. It should be under the name column, okay? And I'm gonna give it what? I'm gonna say from, look at what I'm doing, from ASG. Guess what? Now if I look in my EC2 console and I see an instance with this name, I know that was automatically created by auto-scaling group because of a scale in or scale out activity that needed to happen, okay, based on the traffic that my website is getting. All right, so go ahead and click on next, guys. Go ahead and click on next. I believe that's it. That's all of it. We have a desired of 2, we have a minimum of 1, we have a maximum capacity of 5, okay? So let's go ahead and click on create auto-scaling group. We're almost done, guys. The second part is very easy, SSHing with, you get an email asking you about the subscription. So you have to confirm that email first for you to be able to be notified in the future, okay? So you have to confirm. I'm just confirming my email now. It says confirmed, but you don't have to do that now. All right, so guys, if we come back to our instances, what do you guys think should be happening? What do you think should be happening? Now I can delete this server, guys. I already have an image of it. I'm not going to automatically be creating this from an AMI anymore, because my AMI is being used by auto-scaling group now to automatically create my servers for my web application. Guys, I can terminate this server. Let's go ahead and do that. This was the one that we used as a template, right? We already loaded our web server on this one. We took an image of it so we can use to automatically create new servers from now on using auto-scaling group and mapping that to our load balancer. All right, So now I can delete this now. I can actions. I'm just deleting this one. I'm gonna what? Sorry, instance state, terminate. Yes, terminate. I'm terminating this one instance. Okay, I'm terminating that one instance. Now look at what's happening, guys. I have a filter here that just shows me running instance. If you want to add a filter so you can only see running instances, you don't want to see, if I uncheck this, guys, I'm gonna see every instance plus the ones that are terminating and all that and pending and all that. But now, guys, type the number 7 if you have instances automatically created for you by AutoScaling group. I hope I see. Great. Awesome. Great. I'm happy to see that. So now you can see, guys, hands off, your website is not going to crash, right? You can absorb that traffic as it's growing to a maximum of 5. Okay, to a maximum of 5. Okay, of course, if we're in real life, maybe your company will agree on, let's go to 10. Okay, so at least we have some time to go and troubleshoot and see why. Is it like more people are using our website now? Is that why we're getting, more traffic and we're adding more instances? That you can determine in a real life environment. But in this case, hands off, right? We're imagining we're in a production environment, hands off. We've done all the work. We have an AMI, we have an AutoScaling group. AutoScaling group is doing the work of what? Making sure that we have 2 servers at all times in availability zone 1A and availability zone 1B. Great job, guys. Great job. What does we want to show here? Now let's test. AutoScaling group should be working with our load balancer, right? That's going to direct people to this instance or this instance in this case. So let's go now to our load balancer and get the address of our load balancer. So I'm going to go to load balancers now, guys. I'm going to go to load balancers. Okay. Now, remember, you never want to give, let me go back to instances in this other tab. I'm in another tab here. Remember, in real life, you don't give people this address right here and say, here, go see my website or go see my web application, right? And I said later on, I'll teach you guys how you can have a customized website, okay? You can customize this to be your website.com, okay? In real life, you don't give people this, or you don't give this, or you don't give them the DNS of your load balancer as well. But in reality, you can only use this for testing, right? Use this for testing, but also in reality, it's behind the load balancer. So you're gonna grab your load balancer now, go to your load balancer, okay? Go to your load balancer. All right. Now, this is what we want to use now. Why? Because this is spreading the load to all of the servers that are in our different availability zones. Think about that. Load balancer is spreading the load to the machines that AutoScaling is creating in either availability zone. All right. So let's grab that. I'm going to close this. This is from before. And then I wanted to say something about that YouTube video later on. All right, so just open a new tab, paste your load balancer DNS, and hit enter. Worked. Why did I terminate the initial web server? Because I used that to create the template for my AutoScaling group. So AutoScaling group knows which application we want to run. Okay, the application we want to run is in that AMI. So we've created the AMI. The AMI is going to be a living thing unless we delete it. So we don't need that web server anymore. We only use it to to load our website code and all that good stuff. All right, cool. All right, guys, can I get a 9? Let me get a 9 if you got this done. This is amazing, guys. Like, this is, if you know how to do this, start thinking about becoming a freelancer in a couple of weeks. My goal with this, as I'm thinking now, is by week 15, if you're able to watch my video from week 1 to week 15, of course, we're going to continue to do more, and we're going to go into DevOps. We're going to go into cloud security in this, because again, I'm using this to, to help me, to retain my knowledge as well, and just to keep things, also as something to help you guys, right? Hands-on. A lot of things that people ask me, even when I teach classes locally, is we need hands-on, right? So these sessions allows me to do more hands-on, to teach you guys this hands-on, so you can comfortably put this in your resumes. Yes, this is money. This is I know. So follow me till week 15. Make sure you're able to do those things, and you should be able, right, to at least maybe even internships, right? Prove that you've done all these things, right? You can do auto-scaling group. You can do. Now, guys, there's one thing I wanted to do before we go. Do not go unless you have to go. Let's make our security groups more secure. Let us make our security groups more secure. Quickly, guys, before we do the VScode thing, guys, your web servers should not open traffic to 0.0.0 anymore. Let me see if someone will get the idea in the chat. Instead of allowing our web server traffic from 0.0.0, which is the public internet, which is not good. It's not a good security, thing to do. Okay? We always have to be security conscious, right? Our web server security group right now is allowing traffic from 0.0.0. Who should be allowing? Which security group should be allowing? Traffic from 0.0.0? Who can tell me in the chat real quick? Which security group should be allowing traffic from 0.0.0? Quickly in the chat. Who's that? Grace M. Oh God, you guys are amazing. All right, let's go ahead and do that. It just makes my work very easy. Guys, think about this. From now on, our load balancer that is managed by AWS should be the one allowing traffic from what? 0.0.0.0. Now, this web server security group, let me just put it here, guys. The web server security group that our web servers are using is only going to allow traffic from who? From the load balancer security group. Now, if you do this, you are more secure. You are much more secure. Let's go ahead and do that. It should be easy. Let's go back to EC2 console. Click on security groups. Let's start with the first one. Web server security group. Now we're going to change this. This is not secure. Allowing this is not secure. Okay? Allowing this is not secure. All right? Now go ahead and click on edit inbound rules. Okay, go ahead and edit inbound rules. And remember, we're doing this for our web server security group. Go ahead and remove this, because this will give you some error if you don't. You see there are multiple here. There's 2 HTTP and there's 2 HTTPS. Delete one of them. Delete the second one with the IPv6 address. Delete this one with the 0. Delete this one right here. Delete. And delete that also. This one with this semicolon, 2 semicolons and all that. Notifying. This is IPv6. Okay, don't worry about IPv6 for now. Just delete this. Okay, delete that. Okay, now we have this. Now for HTTP, go ahead and choose custom. And I want you guys to type here. ELB. Even before you type the whole thing, it will bring it up for you. Choose ELB, guys. Choose ELB. Okay, choose ELB and remove this. Remember to remove this as well. This 0.0, remove it. Now, all you want to have is just and let me just do that one more time. Let's actually remove everything. Let's remove everything. Remove everything. Let's do it again. HTTP, you want to allow HTTP to what? Load balancer security group. Remember, we're changing this for our web server security group, but don't do this for a load balancer security group. You're gonna get errors. It's not gonna work the way you expect. Okay. Now we're changing this for our web server security group. Again, guys, one more time. Custom ELB. Choose ELB security group. This is one of the powers of AWS, that we can directly reference another security group rather than an IP address. Okay. For SSH, if you're going to use mobile xterm or you're going to use PuTTY, then you want to open this to your own IP. Okay, you can just do that and say to your own IP. Remember, SSH, that's okay. We're opening that to our own IP. Okay. And then for HTTPS, guys, custom as well, and choose your what? ELB security group. All right. Now you're more secure for your web servers. Your web servers cannot talk to any machine that is not part of your load balancer security group. Now let's go ahead and click on save rules here. Save rules. Save rules. Now let's go now to our uncheck your web server. We're done with our web server. Now let's go to our load balancer security group. Go to your load balancer security group and let's edit this now. Let's edit this. Edit inbound rules. Okay? It's actually fine. We don't have to change anything. Leave it the way it is. Load balancer security group needs to allow traffic from what? From the world. Because the world is getting to your website through your what? Your load balancer DNS. So that's that. That's that. Please think about this architecture, guys. Think about this architecture as you start to go into your interviews, your cloud engineer interviews, your solutions architect interviews. If they're telling you to draw out something like this, right? Tell us how you're going to host a web application, right? And they're looking out for these things, right? How you're securing your different layers, your load balancer, your web servers. Think about all of this, okay? We're going to talk about databases later on. We're going to do another example in the future, okay? Where we're going to actually use a real dynamic website, right? Whereby we're going to create a database that the website is going to use. What happens in those cases, just so we don't take too much time when that time comes, is our databases, we put them in what? In private subnets. I'm just telling you guys that for now, okay? Just think about your private subnets as where you put your what? Your databases. Your web servers, they stay in your public subnet. Your databases, they stay in your what? Private subnet, okay? And there are other even more secure scenarios where you can put your database, your web servers in your private subnet as well. But don't worry about that for now, guys. As long as you do all of this, you're still, secure. But in reality, some people go the extra step of what? Even putting their web servers in a private subnet. Why they do that? There's some good benefits to doing that, but don't worry about doing that for now. Just leave this scenario as I have it for you now and try to use this, demo this, make sure you're comfortable with this. Load balance, web server security group is only allowing traffic to your load balancer security group, and you've seen how it did that. All right, last step here. In the first week of the class, I told you guys, I believe the first week of the second week, I told you guys to download VScode. Who has VScode on their machines? This last step is going to be very easy. Type 5 if you have VScode. Type the number 5 if you have VScode. Oh, thank God. All right, who else? Very good. Now let's go. I'm going to open my VScode now, and I'm going to try to SSH. Remember, I've already allowed SSH through let me go back to my security groups here. I just want to make sure that I can SSH. Let me go to my web server security group here. So SSH to my IP, okay? So I can SSH. You have to make sure that this is possible. This is allowed to your own IP. You guys will have a different IP, okay? This is an IP given to me by my VPN, okay? Don't worry. Okay, so some people might be saying that, oh, that's a security vulnerability that people can see your public IP. I'm using a VPN. It's going to change when I'm just going to change on my VPN and I'm done. Okay, so that's that. Just make sure, I'm just trying to tell you guys here, your SSH, just make sure your SSH is to your own IP. Okay, for security reasons, never ever allow SSH to the entire world. All right, and when I say entire world, remember that means 0.0.0.0. All right, guys, let me go ahead and open VScode. And when I start teaching you guys about Kubernetes and Elastic Container Services, you're going to love VScode, okay? As we move on with these weekly sessions, we're doing this hands-on, that you guys are putting on your resume and all that. You're going to love VScode. I love VScode, okay? And I'm showing you guys this because I don't have to go out of VScode, to SSH into my machines. I actually can do it inside of VScode, all right? I love VScode too. I know, right? I do. All right. So let me open VScode. I'm opening VScode now, guys. If you don't have VScode, don't worry. Download it after this session. Watch this session again. All right. So this is going to be a very short lab. Let me bring my VScode to your screen, guys. Now let's just go choose one instance. Let's go choose one instance to remote into. All right. So I'm going to go now. Let me go to my instances. All right. Let me choose one of this. Let me choose this. Let me choose this first one. Okay, let me choose this first one. Now, if you want to connect to your instance, if you want to remote into the server and do some things on there, you have an option here to click connect. You can click, when you check the server you want to remote into, you're going to click on connect. Okay, and it will give you these options of how you can remote into it. Okay. Here it says here we're not able to connect because perhaps the role does not have that SSM instance role. It should, or maybe it's still just taking its time so far. But don't worry about session manager. We're not using session manager for now for this. EC2 instance connect is another way that it will allow you to remote into it using your browser. We're not doing that. We're going to use an SSH client, and in this case we're using VScode. Okay, so it gives us the exact thing we need to use. Okay, it gives us the exact code we need to use when using VScode. So if I choose SSH client here, whatever SSH client you're using, this is what you need. You can copy using this icon right here. This is what you need to allow you to what? Remote into that server. But first things first, guys. First things first. Let's go back to VS Code. Now, I want you guys to click on terminal. Okay? Click on terminal and click on new terminal. And it will open PowerShell for you. It'll open PowerShell for you. Now, you guys that are familiar with Linux, this is a terminal like you have in Linux. This is a terminal like you have in a Mac OS as well. Okay, but in this case, this is PowerShell. This is not Linux. You have to know that. This is PowerShell. Now, you don't need to be an expert at PowerShell. Guys, I'm not an expert at PowerShell, but because I've kind of found a way to get around to do what I want to do with PowerShell, these are the common things that, you know, some of these things that I'm going to be doing here in PowerShell are some of the things that you want to be able to do, okay, in PowerShell. So you can go back tomorrow and watch some videos on YouTube about PowerShell. That's good. It's good to know some PowerShell. But PowerShell also is just a terminal. But this is more Windows related. Some of the commands are different, guys. Some can work with Linux and some can work here. Not every time. Now, what we want to do now, before we were able to use this code, sorry guys, I know it's almost 12:30. We're almost done, guys. Leave this page open. Yes, Mac users download VS Code. Download VS Code. There's a VS Code version for Mac users as well. But this last lab, I don't think you'll be able to do it because you're not. I don't know if you don't have PowerShell. Don't worry, non-Windows users, just use this as a knowledge of when you're using Windows. Okay, what we're doing in VS Code now, and we're using PowerShell. Mac users don't do it. Okay, just watch. All right. So guys, we have this now. We have this. Okay, if we click this, it's copied. But this is something we need to do. Look at this. It's looking for a key pair to use. It is looking for a key pair to use. You have to make sure that in PowerShell, your path, the directory that you're in, has this file in there. The directory that you're in has this file in there. So how do we do that? Let me open my folder, guys. This is my folder, right? This is my folder. This is my folder, your class folder that you all guys should have, your desktop folder, remember? It should have your key in there that you have used for this machine that are launched by AutoScaling Group. Okay? Now, here's what I want to do. I'm going to select this directory right here, this path. This path, I'm going to copy. I'm going to make sure that in PowerShell, I'm in this path, right? I'm in this directory, right? I'm in this directory, if that makes sense to you guys. Let me go back to VS Code. Now, here's the command. I know some of you are like, in Linux, we use CD. Here's what we're going to use. We're going to use SL, okay, to change directory to where we want. Go ahead and choose SL and put a semicolon and put a, what do you call this? Quotation mark, okay? Put the first quotation and then paste that path to where your, guys, AWS training right here is this folder right here. And it has my key that I can use to SSH into the machine. I hope you guys are following. I hope you guys are following. All right, now go ahead and add your last semicolon. Add your last semicolon. All right, remember SL space, put the path, add the last semicolon, and hit enter. Now I'm in that folder. Now it's like I'm in this folder. Now it's like I'm in this folder in this terminal. Okay, now that I'm in that folder, I can comfortably use this code now. I can comfortably use this command to SSH. Now I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy. It's the same thing as copying the whole thing, but I'll prefer use the icon itself. Okay, just use the icon, click on copy, and now go back. Fingers crossed, guys. Let's paste. Let's paste, and let's hit enter. Enter. Whoa, it looks like it's going to work. Type yes. Hit enter. Oh, I didn't add my EC2 user. Let's see here. What did it copy? Oh, I didn't copy. It didn't copy the. All right. So here, let me do it again. Don't worry. Let's do it again. What did I paste? Where did I paste? Let me see. Let's see here. Okay, here comes that part where, let me see. Enter. Please log in as the EC2 user rather than the user root. Let's do this. Let's do this. Wait for it to cancel, or you can hit Control C. Do this instead of using root. I don't know why it's giving me root at this time. So go ahead and edit this. Instead of using root, remove that and type EC2 -user. You guys see that? Is everyone following so far? Type 5 if you made that change as well. Type 5. Okay, don't worry if you're not following. You can't see my screen. Oh, okay. Okay. Guys, you gotta move on. Some people are following. All right. So let me type enter now. There you go. All right, worked. As you can see, I'm inside of my EC2. So just remember to change that root to EC2 -user. Okay. So now we're using VScode. So now I don't have to go back and forth between session manager. For me, of course, any day you want to use session manager. Okay. Anytime you should always use session manager to remote in. But sometimes when I'm working with code in VScode, I just want to sometimes just, have this ready for me to SSH into it worked. Kolayemi, I'm glad it worked. I'm glad it worked. Now, guys, type 9 if you're able to follow everything so far today. Type 9. Remember, you're gonna have the recording. Okay, very good. I'm glad to see that. Okay, more hands-on to your knowledge base or your resume. All right, now, first person to open the call. Now, before we move on, guys, we've done the lab for today. What I want you guys to do is delete your auto-scaling group. Okay, delete your auto-scaling group. I would have tested something for you guys now, but in reality, it's not gonna. If I delete one instance, if I delete one of these auto-scaling group, if I delete one server, let me ask you guys actually, if I delete one of these servers created by auto-scaling group, who can tell me what will happen? If I terminate one, and I give it a few seconds, if I terminate one of those created by auto-scaling group, let me do terminate, right? If I terminate, you see, I'm terminating this one now, it's shutting down. What will happen? Another one will populate. Very good. Yes. Because of auto-scaling group, another one will be created so that we're at a minimum of 2 at all times. Exactly. So you don't want that to happen. Go ahead and terminate. Go ahead and delete the auto-scaling group. Okay. The only thing I'll say you guys should leave is your security group and your AMI. Okay. Your AMI, please make sure you always have. If you're going to terminate your AMI today just because you want to save on your EBS, free tier, that's good. But make sure before the next class you have that AMI ready again. If I were you, I would leave it because I think it shouldn't cost you anything from now till next week or next couple of weeks. Okay. It's using EBS, your EBS volumes, and there's some cost to using those EBS snapshot volumes and those snapshots that AMI is using. But at the end of the day, if you can leave it. If you cannot, my recommendation is delete it, and before next class create that AMI again. Okay. But in essence, let's go ahead and delete auto-scaling group. We're done with this lab today. Go ahead and click on delete, and then go ahead and type delete in there. Okay, go ahead and delete. Launch configuration, can delete that as well. Actually, I can leave that. I'm going to leave that because I'm leaving my AMI. I'm going to leave my AMI to use for next class and next class and next class. Okay, but again, please delete. I don't know how far till you start getting charged for the free tier for the snapshots, but I don't think it should be a problem now. Seriously, I really don't think. But I'm going to leave mine. Okay, instances. Once you do that, I think once you terminate your auto-scaling group, it should start. Yeah, as you can see, it's terminating the other one as well, and it's terminating all of them. All right, guys, that's that for today. Remember the S3 bucket that we created today, the new site. Please leave that. We're gonna use that from now on, if we have to. Now, mic is open. Mic is opened.